That time I got reincarnated as a slime begins by showing a 37-year-old young man named Mikami Satoru, who works as an ordinary contractor at a firm after he graduates from college. But even though Satoru has lived a perfect life with a well-paying job in a big company, he still doesn't have a girlfriend until now. That day Satoru met his junior named Tamura, who was dating a girl named Sawatari Miho. Tamura invited Satoru to have lunch together while discussing the matter of their office work. But on the way to the restaurant, a robber suddenly appeared from the other side and ran towards them, holding a knife. Seeing that Tamura was about to be killed by the robber, Satoru moved quickly and immediately pushed Tamura's body so he could survive. However, that action actually made Satoru injured badly by a knife stab, and Satoru, who lost a lot of blood, began to lose consciousness. At the last moment, Satoru hears a voice from another world or Isekai who magically grants him various powers based on all the last words he spoke. As a result, Satoru has various defensive strengths ranging from heat resistance, stab resistance, physical attack resistance, pain nullification, cold resistance, and attack powers such as predator skills to great sage skills. After Satoru died, he was reincarnated into the world of Isekai where he transformed into a blind slime trapped in a rock cave. Satoru tries to adapt to his new body and the environment around him until he begins to understand the power he has after the god explains everything to him. In the cave, Satoru tries to survive by looting various plants in that place and turning them into medicine. He also absorbs a magic crystal stone in the cave until he accidentally falls into a lake and gets a new skill in the form of water pressure propulsion. After that, Satoru met a giant dragon named Veldora who could help him to have a vision on the condition that he had to accompany the dragon for a long time. Satoru agreed to the offer and the dragon gave him a magic perception skill that allowed him to see. After realizing the uniqueness and intelligence possessed by Satoru, Veldora then asked him how he got trapped in the cave. After hearing about the story of Satoru's reincarnation, Veldora then told about how he got trapped in the stone cave. Veldora had been attacked and defeated by an Isekai hero who activated the immortal prison skill and locked up in the cave. Hearing that, Satoru then intends to unite their strength so that they can get out of the cave. After they unite their bodies and powers, they then baptize each other by giving them new names. Veldora named Satoru Rimuru Tempest, and Satoru named Veldora Tempest for Veldora. The news of Veldora's disappearance from the rock cave located within the great forest of Jura made the various kingdoms around the forest frightened and wary. One of the kingdoms affected by the news of Veldora's disappearance is the Bluemund Kingdom, which the Bluemund King leads with the guildmaster named Fuse. To overcome this crisis, Fuse then sent several adventurers to investigate the stone cave and find out where Veldora was. On the other hand, Rimuru, who has now received the power of Veldora, began to fight various monsters such as giant black snakes, armosaurs, black spiders to giant bats to get new skills. Shortly after Rimuru found the cave door, the three adventurers sent by Fuse suddenly opened the door and Rimuru took the opportunity to exit the cave. After successfully exiting the rock cave, Rimuru met a group of goblins who were about to attack him because they were frightened by his presence in the forest they inhabited. Rimuru tried to convince them that he wouldn't hurt them and started talking to them. After realizing that Rimuru was not a bad slime, the goblins then asked him for help to help them attack the direwolves who were destroying their forest. It turned out that the goblins asked Rimuru for help because he had an aura of immense power and believed that Rimuru could help them defeat the direwolves. The goblins also said they were willing to make Rimuru their leader if he succeeded in assisting them in getting rid of the direwolves. Rimuru then planned to help the goblins, starting by encouraging them, healing the goblins injured in the first attack, and devising a strategy for the next attack. That night, Rimuru confronted the direwolves who were about to attack the goblins and tried to approach them by diplomacy so that they could solve this problem without war. However, because the direwolf leader refused the offer, a fight between them was unavoidable and Rimuru started directing the goblins to shoot at the direwolves. As a result of the fight, several direwolves were injured and the direwolf leader was killed by the cutting string trap Rimuru had previously prepared. After that, Rimuru used his mimicry skill to transform into the direwolf leader and make all the remaining direwolves submit to him. Thus, the feud between the goblins and the direwolf was successfully resolved, and Rimuru managed to unite them into one group. The next day, Rimuru asked them their names, and the goblin chief replied that they didn't have names because magical creatures like them could communicate using telepathy. Hearing that, Rimuru took the initiative to give them names so he could be closer to them and call them more easily. Rimuru then named the goblin chief with the name Rigger and several other goblins with the names Gobta, Gobji, Gobze, Gonzo, and Haruna. After Rimuru gave the direwolf Alpha the name Ranga, he suddenly fell unconscious because he had used up too much energy. As it turned out, with Rimuru giving names to the goblins and direwolves, he had baptized them and gave them the ability to evolve to become stronger. After Rimuru woke up from his stupor, he announced some important rules for the direwolves and goblins. In that rule, he mentioned that they must not attack humans, they must not demean other races, and they must not kill their fellow group members. After conveying all the rules, Rimuru appointed Rigor to lead the goblin and direwolf group to establish a forest village. But they find it difficult to build buildings and infrastructure because the goblins and direwolves still don't have the ability and knowledge of building construction. Rigor then advised Rimuru to go to the Dwarfgon Kingdom and ask for help from the dwarves who have the expertise to build buildings and forge iron. After hearing Rigor's suggestion, Rimuru decided to go to the Dwarfgon Kingdom with Ranga, Gopta, Rigor and several other goblin members, while the other goblins and direwolf members would guard their village. In the middle of the journey, they rested for a while on the bank of the Amelia River to gather their energy. In the evening, Rimuru received information that the kingdom of Dwarfgon was led by a human king named Gazel who had created a liberal system in the kingdom. After arriving at the gates of the Dwarfgon Kingdom, Rimuru ordered Ranga and the others to wait in the forest while he and Gopta would enter the Dwarfgon Kingdom. While at the security check line, Rimuru got into a fight with two men and the fight caused chaos in the place. As a result, Rimuru and Gopta were captured by the Dwarfgon royal security officers and imprisoned in the royal prison. Inside the prison cell, Rimuru heard that an Armorosaurus monster was attacking the kingdom's borders, so he offered to help by giving some healing potions to treat the injured dwarves. The royal prison guard named Kaido also received the potion and decided to release Rimuru and Gopta because of the help Rimuru had given that saved 3 dwarfs in their kingdom. As a thank you, Kaido introduced Rimuru to a blacksmith named Kaijin so that he could ask him for help to build the village's infrastructure with the 3 dwarves whom Rimuru had saved. But Kaijin couldn't help Rimuru because he still had some duties from the royal minister named Festa to make sword weapons and collect crystal stones to make weapons. Hearing this, Rimuru then gave Kaijin a lump of crystal stone that he had previously taken from the rock cave in the hope that Kaijin would help him. He then helped Kaijin complete a weapon by copying the sword weapon that he had previously made. In the evening, Kaijin takes Rimuru to a tavern to drink and have fun while introducing him to a fortune-teller girl. The fortune-teller girl mentioned that Rimuru would meet a girl from another world in the future, and that girl would be his soulmate. In the middle of the party, Festa's minister suddenly appeared with an arrogant attitude while insulting Kaijin and Rimuru as lowly beings. Hearing Festa's words, Kaijin felt angry and immediately beat him until he was battered. As a result, Rimuru and Kaijin were detained in the royal prison to be tried before King Gazel the next day. While in prison custody, Kaijin and the 3 dwarves who worked for him decided to help Rimuru and came with him to the big forest village of Jura. On the next day, Rimuru and the others were in court before King Gazel to decide whether they would be punished or not. Festa cheated by bribing Kaijin's defense attorney to corner his position and make Kaijin look guilty in front of King Gazel. Fortunately, King Gazel, who had learned what had happened, decided to free Kaijin and the others. After Kaijin and the others left, King Gazel immediately scolded Minister Festa for slandering Rimuru, the person who had helped the Dwarfgon Kingdom with healing potions. Meanwhile, in the Bluemund Kingdom, Fuse gets a report from 3 adventurers who had previously been sent to the Stone Cave, namely Kaval, Aaron, and Guido. After receiving a report from them, Fuse again sent them to investigate the Jura forest because Valdora could be hiding around the forest. When Kaval, Guido and Aaron are about to leave for the Jura forest, they meet a masked girl named Shizu who wants to join them. On the other hand, Rimuru and the others had returned to their village with the dwarves who had skills as a carpenter and a blacksmith. With their help, the goblins began learning the techniques to construct various infrastructures and buildings in their village. Village development became more effective because the goblins already had the skills, and the village became more widespread. While Rimuru was on patrol with Gopta, Rigor approached him and reported that some humans had infiltrated the Jura forest. It turned out that the people Rigor was referring to were 3 adventurers from the Bluemund Kingdom who had previously been sent by Fuse, and a group of giant ant monsters was currently chasing them. After running quite a distance, Shizu suddenly stopped and immediately fought against the giant ant with the power of the fire sword until all the giant ants were killed. But when Shizu was off guard, a giant ant monster that was still alive suddenly attacked her from behind. Fortunately, Rimuru arrived just in time and immediately unleashed his powerful skill to save Shizu. Rimuru then invited Shizu and the 3 Bluemund adventurers to rest in their village. While they were having lunch together, Rimuru asked where they had come from and their reason for coming to the Jura forest. Kaval then explained that they were adventurers from the Bluemund Kingdom who were sent by the royal advisor to investigate the whereabouts of the dragon Veldora who had disappeared from the eternal prison. In the afternoon, Rimuru had a private conversation with Shizu because he believed that Shizu was the girl who had previously been predicted to be his soulmate. Rimuru explained to Shizu that he was a human who came from another world and reincarnated into slime in that world after he died saving someone. Hearing this, Shizu tells Rimuru that she is also a human from another world who was summoned to the world of Isekai during the night of the fireworks festival in Japan. This then made Rimuru worried because he knew that a human who came to the Isekai world as a result of the summoning ritual would have consequences as a curse from the great power they got. However, since Shizu didn't want to explain what the consequences would be to Rimuru, he also respected Shizu's choice. Seeing the sadness on Shizu's face, Rimuru tried to comfort her by showing some beautiful memories and scenery in Japan with his special powers. Shortly after, Rimuru was asked by Kaijin to return to the village while Shizu was still silent on the hill, remembering the terrifying process of the summoning ritual she had experienced in the past. The scene switches to the past to reveal Shizu's memories of the time the summoning ritual took place. In the human world, Shizu, or previously named Shizue Izawa, accidentally meets a demon lord named Leon Cromwell who has a fire spirit named Ifrit. Leon unites the fire spirit with Shizu's soul in a spirit summoning ceremony, and he uses Shizu as his weapon to defeat every enemy he faces. After some time, Shizu finally got a little girl as her new friend in the world of Isekai, but one day, she unknowingly attacked and killed the girl due to the influence of the fire spirit controlled by Leon. After Shizu realized that she had killed her friend, she felt so guilty and traumatized that she had nightmares every night. Back to the present, Shizu is getting more comfortable with Rimuru because she can share her feelings that she has been keeping to herself all this time. Rimuru said that Shizu could stay in the village as long as she wanted, but Shizu refused the offer because she wanted to find Leon's whereabouts, which had trapped her in the world of Isekai. Then when the three Blue Moon adventurers were about to return to the kingdom, they invited Shizu to join them, but she refused, and suddenly, she felt pain. It turned out that the fire spirit had taken over Shizu's consciousness until she turned into a fire spirit figure and instantly destroyed several buildings in the Jura Forest village. Rimuru immediately asked Rigger to evacuate the goblins and Direwolf while he and the three Blue Moon adventurers would try to fight the fire spirit controlling Shizu's body. At first, Rimuru had a hard time defeating the fire spirit, and he was surprised that the water knife attack did not affect the fire spirit. But after learning that Aaron's power can hurt the fire spirit, Rimuru immediately asks Aaron to attack him so that he can copy that power. After Rimuru asked Ranga to take all the Blue Moon adventurers who had been injured by the fire explosion away from that place, Rimuru tried to attack the fire spirit alone with Iceland's strength. Even though the fire spirit had used the power of shadows and trapped Rimuru in extermination magic, he could still survive because he had an extreme heat resistance power. Then after seeing the fire spirit off guard, Rimuru used the opportunity to bind the fire spirit and devour him with the power of the predator's skill so that he was confined within his body. After the fight, Shizu was saved, and Rimuru took care of her, hoping she would recover. After Shizu came to her senses, she apologized to Rimuru because she had ruined Rimuru and the goblin's residence. Shizu then said that in the past, she had met a masked hero who had helped her to escape Leon's control, and before they parted, the hero gave his mask to her. After the hero disappears, Shizu begins an adventure to fight evil in the world of Isekai before she ends up teaching in the kingdom of Ingratia, where summoned children from the human world are housed. Shizu realized that she would soon die because of the curse she got from the spirit summoning ritual, so she asked Rimuru to tell her his real name. Rimuru then told Shizu about his real name. He allowed Shizu to rest in his body and promised that he would find Leon. After Shizu died, Rimuru paid his last respects to her and used his predator's ability to save Shizu's body. On the next day, the Blue Moon adventurers said goodbye to Rimuru and thanked Shizu. Elsewhere, an orc suddenly fainted from hunger and exhaustion, so a demon named Galmut christened the orc with the name Geld so that the orc transformed into a stronger creature to rule the Jura Forest. Meanwhile, Kaijin and the others started repairing the damaged buildings and continued other unfinished infrastructure development plans. On the other hand, the goblins and dwarves were getting used to Rimuru's human form, and they also started to involve Rimuru in various daily activities. That day, Rimuru ordered Ranga to escort Gopta and the other goblins who were about to hunt in the forest to protect them from the attacks of the beasts. Meanwhile, Rimuru will go into Veldura's cave to practice a new skill in the form of black fire and try to use Shizu's mask that can hide his powerful aura. Shortly after, Rimuru received an emergency signal from Ranga indicating that the goblins were in danger. Rimuru immediately went after them and found the goblins who had been injured from the attacks of the 6 ogres. After healing the injured goblins, Rimuru tried to approach the ogres to negotiate so there would be no pointless battle, but the ogre leaders refused to listen to him because they thought that Rimuru was the one who had sent a group of orcs to destroy their village. This was because Rimuru wore the same mask as the person who sent the orcs. After a very short battle, Rimuru could trounce them and decided to show his strength to the ogres so that they would be willing to consider his negotiation offer. The second battle was prevented after the ogre leader's younger sister persuaded the ogre leader to investigate who had sent the orcs to their village. After that, the ogres apologized to Rimuru and the goblins for having a bad attitude towards them. Before the ogre left, Rimuru invited them to have a drink together in the forest village of Jura while having a chat together. In the conversation, the ogres said that their village had been attacked by powerful orcs and controlled by a demon with enormous power. Hearing that, Rimuru advised the ogres to form an alliance with the goblins and join as his henchmen so that they would have shelter. The next day, after much deliberation, the ogre leader met Rimuru and decided to join his subordinates until they succeeded in taking revenge on the orcs. After hearing their sincerity, Rimuru then baptized the ogres with the names Sion, Hakuro, Sawe, Kurobe, Shuna, and appointed Benimaru as the leader. Meanwhile elsewhere, an army of orcs numbering in the thousands began to flock to the borders of the Lizardman Kingdom in the Lake Sis area. The Lizardmen's royal guards immediately informed the Lizardman King about the arrival of the orc troops heading to their territory. The Lizardman King then ordered his son named Gabiru to investigate what caused the orc army to come to their territory and overcome the orc army's invasion. At the same time, Rimuru received information from Benimaru and Sawe that there was a demon named Galmud who had come to their village to baptize the ogres. But Benimaru chased the demon away, so there is a possibility that the person behind all these incidents is the demon Galmud. Meanwhile, Gabiru, who has arrived in the middle of the Jura forest with his troops to gather more troops from the goblins, intends to come to the Jura forest village to conquer the village. But after Gabiru and his troops arrived at the village, they were easily defeated by Gopta, so they fled in fear. Rimuru then sent Sawe to investigate what was happening in the Lizardman Kingdom. From the investigation that Sawe had carried out, Rimuru finally got information that thousands of orc troops were coming to the territory of the Lizardman Kingdom. That night when Rimuru and the others were having a meeting, Sawe informed that there was a dryad who wanted to meet Rimuru. After the dryad appeared, she introduced herself as trainee and asked Rimuru to help defeat the orc army and a mighty orc lord. That night, Rimuru asked Sawe to meet the Lizardman King and tell the Lizardman army not to attack the orc army first, because the orc army could copy the attack abilities of the Lizardmen. On the other hand, Gabiru and his squad meet a demon disguised as a clown. The demon instigated Gabiru to stage a coup against the Lizardman King or Gabiru's own father. At the same time, Sawe had arrived at the Lizardman's kingdom and conveyed a message from Rimuru so that the Lizardmen troops would not attack and only use defensive strategies until help from Rimuru arrived. Although the members of the Lizardman kingdom initially refused it, after they saw Sawe's abilities, they decided to comply with the request and allied with Rimuru. Unfortunately, after Sawe left the Lizardman kingdom, Gabiru came with his troops and immediately staged a coup d'etat on his own father. After successfully carrying out a coup, Gabiru and his troops prepared to attack the orc troops who would soon arrive in their territory. On the other hand, Rimuru and the others were ready to fight against the orcs and were on their way to the Lizardman kingdom. On the way, Rimuru met the daughter of the Lizardman king, who was injured from fighting with the orc army alone. After healing the princess with a potion, Rimuru then asked the princess how the current condition of the Lizardmen was, and the princess replied that currently, Gabiru had staged a coup d'etat on their father. Hearing that, Rimuru was determined to be able to help the Lizardman king defeat the orc army and get his throne back in the Lizardman kingdom. Gabiru and his army began to struggle to defeat the orc army after realizing that the orc army could wrest physical strength from the Lizardmen army. Moreover, Gabiru saw a giant orc general with a frightening aura, which definitely made him feel frightened at the thought of the orc lord's power. It turned out that Benimaru's previous guess was proven right, that the mastermind behind all this incident was the demon Galmud who was currently watching over the orc troops using a magic crystal ball from the middle of the Jura forest. Shortly after that, Dryad appeared and intended to kill Galmud, but unfortunately, Galmud and his subordinates managed to escape. Rimuru and the others finally arrived at the battlefield and they immediately rescued Gabiru who was getting exhausted after fighting against the giant orcs. After Gopta and Ranga save Gabiru, the ogres start fighting with their special abilities. Benimaru attacked with the power of black flames, Hakuro attacked with the power of the sword, and Sion attacked so brutally that they managed to slash the orc army by quite a large number. Ranga began to transform into a Tempest direwolf so that he had the power of a deadly storm that could finish off the orc troops that surrounded the Lizardmen army. At the same time, Sawe had managed to save the Lizardman king and directly communicated with the demon Galmud to show the defeat of the orc army that had been sent by him. Galmud, who panicked because the defeat of the orc army in this battle could make the demon lord angry and punish him, immediately rushed to the battlefield to face Rimuru. When Galmud arrived at the battlefield, he grumbled in annoyance at Rimuru's troops while summoning the orc lord he had created earlier. Rimuru, without feeling the slightest fear, immediately approached Galmud and showed his power so great that it scared him. The Orc Lord named Geld then appears after Galmud and summons him to attack Rimuru. But unexpectedly, instead of attacking Rimuru, Geld killed Galmud and preyed on him out of hunger. After preying on the demon Galmud, Geld transformed from an Orc Lord into a very powerful Orc disaster. The attacks from Rimuru's troops did not impact Geld because he could regenerate very quickly. Seeing that, Rimuru tried to attack Geld with a combination attack from several skills he had, but it still couldn't hurt him. Rimuru finally used his Predator skill to prey on Geld's body and strength, so Geld slowly began to lose power and was defeated. When Rimuru preyed on Geld, Rimuru had a vision of his past memory which showed a food crisis and famine so terrible in the Orc village that Rimuru promised Geld that he would take care of the Orc race and save them from starvation. After the battle, Rimuru held a meeting with his troops with the Orc group and the Lizardmen group. He explained that the Orc army did all that because of the famine that hit their village, so the Lizardmen would also forgive the Orcs. After that, Rimuru proposed the idea of allying with the goblins, ogres, lizardmen and orcs into one group in an association called the Jura Great Forest Alliance. Then, the Dryad or Forest Elf overseeing the Great Forest of Jura then appointed Rimuru as the alliance's leader. After that, Rimuru baptized the loyal subordinate of Geld under the name Gerudo and appointed him as the new leader of the Orc nation. Rimuru has also succeeded in helping the Lizardmen King reclaim his throne in the Lizardmen Kingdom after Rimuru baptized the king with the name Abiru. After Abiru became king of the Lizardmen, Abiru expelled Gabiru and his troops as punishment for all the mistakes and coups committed by him before. Over time, Rimuru helped the Orcs rebuild and develop their village to be safer and more prosperous. A few days later, the army of the Dwarfgon Kingdom and the King of Gazal came to Rimuru's village after he received information about Rimuru, who had defeated Orc Disaster and built the Jura Great Forest Alliance. After having a short conversation, Gazal, who was initially worried about Rimuru's whereabouts, finally realized that Rimuru was not a bad person. In the evening, King Gazal invites Rimuru to cooperate between Rimuru's village and the Dwarfgon Kingdom. After considering a few things, Rimuru agreed to the offer and called their territory the Jura Tempest Federation, with Rimuru's village as the kingdom's capital. As a thank you, King Gazal handed Festa to Rimuru so that he could hire him as his subordinate because Festa had quite advanced scientific abilities. At the same time, Gabiru and his troops came to meet Rimuru and intend to join his men. Rimuru accepts them and orders them as Sawe's men after he baptizes them into the Dragonite army. Rimuru gave a special task to Gabiru and Festa to grow medicinal plants in Veldora's rock cave and conduct research in the laboratory located in the rock cave. On the other hand, the four demon lords gathered in a palace after they witnessed Rimuru's fight with Orc Disaster on the battlefield earlier. The four demon lords named Milim, Clayman, Frey, and Carrion are four of the 10 demon lords in the Isekai world. Milim, who was curious about Rimuru's power, came to the Jura Tempest Federation to meet him. After Rimuru saw Milim's behavior, which was very childish and could be easily distracted, he didn't feel anxious about her presence and started spending time with her. After the village leaders of the Jura Tempest Federation learned that Milim was one of the demon lords, they concluded that it was likely that another demon lord would come to their village. Meanwhile, in the Blue Moon Kingdom, Fuse and the Blue Moon King also received news about Rimuru's victory in the battle against Orc Disaster, so Fuse and his troops intend to visit Rimuru's village. Returning to the Jura village of Tempest, Rimuru began to dig up information about the other demon lords to Milim after the envoy of the demon king Carrion named Pobio came to their village. In addition to the Blue Moon Kingdom, another kingdom named Falmus also heard the news about Rimuru's victory and the Jura Kingdom alliance that Rimuru had formed. The Falmus royal envoy, led by a young man named Youm, also came to Rimuru's village at the same time as the Blue Moon royal envoy led by Fuse. After arriving at the village of Jura Tempest, Youm and Fuse then met Rimuru and the other village leaders of Jura Tempest to hold a meeting. In the meeting, Rimuru asked Youm to join the Jura Tempest Alliance and asked him to spread information about Rimuru's good intentions so that other kingdoms would not consider him a world threat. Youm, who had understood Rimuru's intentions, agreed to the request and decided to learn to fight with Rimuru's troops. On the other hand, the demon lord Clayman received news that the strongest monster named Charybdis would soon rise, and Clayman ordered his subordinate named Tyr to find a way to control Charybdis. After he learns that the envoy of the demon king Carrion named Pobio is planning to take revenge on Rimuru, he instigates Pobio to control Charybdis and use the monster's power to defeat Rimuru. After Tyr and Pobio arrived at the cave where Charybdis was, Tyr ordered Pobio to unite his soul with Charybdis' soul so that Charybdis could be resurrected. The next day, Dryad's younger sister, Toria, suddenly appeared before Rimuru. She gave the news that the monster of calamity named Charybdis had risen and the monster intended to attack the Jura forest. Hearing the precarious situation, Rimuru then held a meeting with the leaders of the Jura Forest Federation to devise a strategy in the fight against the monster Charybdis and the demon lords who controlled Charybdis. The battle between Rimuru's army and the evil demon king's army that controlled Charybdis was fierce the following day. Rimuru's army had difficulty defeating the evil demon lord's army and Charybdis because the enemy's strength was so great. Charybdis, who had the form of a megalodon, then issued a sharp-scale attack on Rimuru's troops. Fortunately, Rimuru could withstand the attack with his new skill called gluttony. After Rimuru realized that Charybdis had the power of regeneration, he asked the army of Dwarfgon Nation to carry out continuous attacks to hinder Charybdis' regeneration while he analyzed it. After learning that Pobio is inside Charybdis' body and controlling Charybdis' body, Rimuru asks Milim to destroy Charybdis and save Pobio. After Milim managed to destroy Charybdis, Pobio came to his senses and apologized to Rimuru for this incident. He then informs that a demon lord has instigated him to resurrect Charybdis. After that, the demon lord Carrion suddenly appeared and thanked Rimuru for caring for his subordinate Pobio, who had lost control. The next day, Rimuru decided to go to the Ingratia Kingdom with Ranga to find Shizu's disciples because he remembered the promise he had previously made to Shizu. After arriving in the Ingratia Kingdom, Rimuru came to the Freedom Guild headquarters to meet one of Shizu's students who had become Grandmaster named Yuki Kagura. After meeting with Yuki, Rimuru informs Yuki of his intentions that he wants to save Shizu's students from the Freedom Academy. With Yuki's help, Rimuru disguises himself as a teacher at the academy so he can approach Shizu's students. The next day, when Rimuru was about to teach, Yuki told Rimuru about one of Shizu's students named Hinata Sekiguchi who had left the academy several years ago. In the classroom, Rimuru meets 5 Shizu students named Kenya Misaki, Ryota Sekiguchi, Gail Gibson, Alice Rondo, and Chloe Aubert. Because the students still underestimated and ignored him, Rimuru decided to take them one by one against him in turn. In all those battles, Rimuru won and asked them to listen to him because he was Shizu's best friend, who she sent to save them. Rimuru also intends to help them by connecting their souls with spirits, just as Shizu is connected to Ifrit's fire spirit. Thus he could free their souls as he freed Shizu from the Ifrit spirit earlier so that the children would not suffer the consequences of the deadly curse. After gathering information, Rimuru finally found a place inhabited by powerful spirits in the gems of the Ingratia Kingdom. Rimuru went there with Ranga and 5 of Shizu's disciples to find the spirit they were looking for. After entering the building, Rimuru used his mental map to pass through various extremely complicated rooms like a maze without getting lost. After a while, a mysterious voice was suddenly heard trying to communicate with them, and Rimuru said that they only wanted to get blessings from high-level spirits. Not long after, Rimuru and the others were brought to a room inhabited by a large robotic golem. Fortunately, Rimuru could easily defeat the robot golem and destroy the golem with the power of the black flames. After he threatened the spirit controlling the golem that he would unleash another black flame attack, the spirit suddenly appeared and introduced herself as one of the demon lords in Isekai named Ramirez. While the children are resting in Ranga's body, Rimuru has a short chat with Ramirez and she tells him that the demon lords in Isekai are actually great spirits, but they turn into demon lords after a transgression or mistake. After that, Ramirez invited Rimuru and the others to go to a room where they could make a wish to a spirit. Through the request, all disciples get a relationship with different spirits based on their power. Gail gets the earth element spirit, Alice gets the space element spirit, Kenya gets the light spirit, Ryota gets the water and wind elemental spirit, and finally, Chloe gets a very rare and powerful fairy spirit in the form of a woman who somehow has a relationship with Veldora. Realizing that it was a very powerful spirit and difficult to control, Ramirez tried to prevent the woman's spirit from entering Chloe's body, but she was too late. Ramirez explained to Rimuru that the spirit was a spirit that came from the future and had received protection from the spirit of the time. Still, Rimuru responded casually as long as the spirit did not harm Chloe. After gaining a spirit connection, Rimuru's protégés begin to live normal lives like him. Rimuru was relieved and happy that he had managed to keep his promise to Shizu to protect the students at the Freedom Academy. Before Rimuru returned to Jura Tempest, he gave Shizu's mask to Chloe and asked Yuki to look after the children while he went on an adventure. When Rimuru returned, the Jura Tempest village grew rapidly and evolved into a more modern city. On the other hand, the strongest demon lord known as Moir secretly keeps an eye on Rimuru because he is interested in becoming his servant. Moir feels sure that Rimuru will summon his spirit in the future because their destiny has been tied to each other. This is the end of the first season. This anime teaches us to always prioritize a diplomatic approach to resolve disputes, rather than using violence that will harm both parties.